Well, Fountain of Youth on Apple TV Plus seems to want to take up the torch of Indiana Jones, but does it really understand what made those first three movies so enjoyable? Maybe. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. The IMDb synopsis for Fountain of Youth reads, two estranged siblings join forces to seek the legendary Fountain of Youth. Using historical clues, they embark on an epic quest filled with adventure. If successful, the mythical fountain could grant them immortality. All right, so it's an action-adventure movie. It's very much trying to, I think, vibe off of Indiana Jones. I think in some ways it succeeds. I would need to watch those movies again to really be sure that I can compare them rightly. But there is really kind of adventure action pretty much throughout. Starts like with the opening credits. And it took me a while, though, to realize what kind of movie this is and why I personally was not connecting with it. But in the last 30 minutes, a child, for the second time, because it had happened also earlier, and this is not a spoiler, just broadly speaking, for the second time, a child solved a mystery none of the adults could. And in that moment, it was confirmed, oh, this is a family movie. Specifically families with probably elementary age kids. I think it's similar in tone, surely by intent, to the classic Indiana Jones movies, but I think it's lacking even the brief moments of what I remember being genuinely felt peril that those movies had. There were times where Indiana Jones and Harrison Ford's performance, you could see in the situation and in the performance, he is really concerned. We should be concerned for him. And although there's actors with focus face in action scenes and furrowed brows, I never really felt concerned for them. The tone is very light. It's much more like what the more recent Indiana Jones movies, at least Crystal Skull, I didn't see the other one. I just feel more like a harmless amusement park ride rather than something that could actually harm the main characters. The two main characters, brother and sister, are playfully sarcastic and bickering and with tit-for-tat dialogue throughout almost, and it makes the dialogue, it makes the exchanges between both them and other characters who get in the mix with that kind of dialogue as well, it makes it feel weightless and repetitive. This sort of mild comedic irritation that characters have for each other overtakes any potential for a real sense of weight and stress that the characters might be feeling, or a real sense of conflict. There are very few instances where I feel like, okay, this maybe is going to a more serious place, but not near enough. Repeatedly, also, there are these unrealistically convenient, almost magical solutions to problems in action sequences, where it's like, oh, what's going to happen? Oh, suddenly, okay, they got a vehicle, they're good to go. It's like, well, where? That's convenient that they found that. Oh, that's convenient. They just drove by that so that he could jump there, or whatever. That kind of writing and sequencing of action meant that very soon I was never worried about what was going to happen, because I just knew, oh, okay, well, something crazy will just be written to happen whenever the writer wants to save the characters from out of nowhere. Now, the story does take some unsurprising but still interesting turns in the last 30 minutes, and that had me moderately invested at that point, but the lack of weight and consequence to so much that came before then made it difficult to stay interested. That said, I think the lack of weight and tension that I personally disliked might make it more accessible and appropriate as a movie for families who don't want a truly suspenseful experience for their younger children. I mean, I remember that there are some aspects of the Temple of Doom, certainly, the Lost Ark, and you think about the scene at the end where the Ark is opened up and it all goes really bad from there. I mean, unlike those two movies, I don't think there's going to be any scenes where parents are going to generally feel like they need to cover the eyes of their children, like my parents were trying to cover my eyes when the Ark was opened in the theater. So I think it's got that going for it. As far as the cast and performances go, John Krasinski, Natalie Portman, they play the leads, adult siblings who love each other but also bicker, an older brother and a younger sister. I am primed to connect with this premise. I have two sisters, one of which, my younger sister, still lives nearby, and we hang out regularly as a result and have a great relationship. So I was primed to connect with the older brother, younger sister, kind of like quirky, not always on the same page kind of dynamic. There's these guys, my sister and I don't really bicker. We maybe tease each other, but I mean, we're not like legit in conflict like these characters are. But even then, the performance styles, they just trivialized their conflict. It was consistent with the script, but I mean, it wasn't working for me. These are both strong actors. It's not a lack of ability on their part, I don't think. It's a choice of tone, and I understand why. But it just kept me all the more at arm's length from really investing in the reality of their relationship. Even though I don't have conflict like that with my sister, if they had conflict that I really felt was real, I certainly, as a result of my own life experiences, would have rooted for them to repair their relationship, to learn to get along. But I just wasn't worried about it because the conflict didn't seem to have any weight to it. There were a few truly heartfelt, dramatic beats between a brother and his younger sister that could have helped me really invest, maybe even brought me to tears thinking about my younger sister, but they were both almost constantly in a kidding and playful mode of line delivery that there was just nothing for me to relate to. Other performances were similarly of a slightly overacted. That's brutal language to say overacted, so I really want to not emphasize that too much. Just very slightly, just a little bit over the top, a little bit on the simplistic side, not so much like a children's movie, but like what you would expect from a family movie. And so those elements, they effectively served the tone of the movie. It's just not a tone that I want. All right. And to be honest, if I knew this was kind of billed in the description as an action movie, and I didn't necessarily get a sense from the trailer that this was going to be a family adventure movie, if that would have been more clear to me, I might not have reviewed this. Normally, I'm not going to review movies for that demographic, so please keep that in mind. This might be something you and your family would enjoy. As far as stunts and visuals, pretty standard here. The fight choreography was sometimes a little too clever, I think, looking interesting, but not making sense for characters that are not supposed to be martial artists. It's not that John Krasinski's character was doing martial arts, but it was still just a little bit, he was holding his own in a really quick and choreographed, just a quick thinking kind of, he would have to be able to think really fast, like a martial artist. I'd have preferred more of the indie vibe, where the hero is basically just a solid brawler, who can take some punches, and he's good with his fists, but really, feels like he's in danger when he's up against actually trained fighters, actually trained killers. The fights, while still interesting to look at times, they felt like generic action movie noise, sort of, to me, rather than the outgrowth of the characters and their capabilities and backgrounds. There are some CG effects, mostly in dreams and visions, and they're fine in this movie, but they don't raise the bar at all. All right, so themes. Is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation here? Well, there's some noteworthy relevance of the Bible and Christian artwork. I'm not saying that it's like a pro-Christian movie, but it's just interesting that they're pulling from those things as much as they were as part of like the ancient archaeology and the classical artists that they kind of have to investigate and that become relevant in the story. That was just kind of a blip on my radar. Nothing really significant about that, I don't think. There is a theme, though, of having contentment versus the constant chase for fulfillment through acquisition or achievement. As we chase after our dreams, I think this movie wants to ask, are we giving thought to the effects our single-mindedness is having or could have on those that we care about? It's a little nugget of a theme that could have been leaned into more, could have been fleshed out more, but it was still appreciated by me for at least being there. All right, no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, skip this one. Sadly, it's not a movie for you. Maybe if you could jump back in time and watch with your boys 5 years ago, when you wouldn't have enjoyed it any more than now, but it would at least be a tolerable and sometimes interesting experience to share with your family, who at that time probably would have appreciated much more what it has to offer than now. Today, there are probably better options for your family to enjoy than this one. It's rated PG-13 for violence and action and some language, and those are all of my thoughts for now on Fountain of Youth. As always, love getting your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected. All that really helps me out. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get info about the benefits of joining at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll check out our podcast and stay connected to all CGC content over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. For more chat about geek entertainment, answers to your questions, and news from the wider world of Christian geekery, get the Christian Geek Central podcast today on iTunes and other podcast services.